There is a secret the outdoor industry will never tell you, a secret that would collapse their entire business model if it became widely known. The secret is this: warmth is not a product. You cannot buy it. You can only create it and trap it. The most expensive sleeping bag in the world is nothing more than a container. If you understand how to create warmth and how to trap it, you can do so with materials that cost almost nothing. The homeless understand this. They have been forced to understand it. And their $15 techniques work better than most $500 sleeping bags because they address the physics directly instead of hiding behind marketing. Tonight we enter a world most people pretend does not exist. The world of street survival, where men and women face temperatures that kill and walk away alive using nothing but cardboard newspapers and plastic bags. Where $15 buys everything you need to survive a night that would defeat the most expensive gear on the market. This is not theory. This is not speculation. This is physics, and physics does not lie. Let us begin. Number 1. The $500 failure. Why expensive gear lets you down. Let us start with a truth the outdoor industry has spent billions trying to obscure. Your expensive sleeping bag is not as good as you think it is. That $500 bag with its technical fill and its precise temperature rating and its impressive marketing claims, it works, under ideal conditions. When everything goes exactly as planned. When you set it up correctly on a proper sleeping pad. When moisture stays out. When compression never occurs. When the temperature stays within the rated range. But how often does everything go exactly as planned? Here is what the manufacturers do not advertise. Sleeping bag temperature ratings are measured under laboratory conditions. A thermal mannequin lies perfectly still inside the bag on a standardized sleeping pad in a climate-controlled chamber. No wind, no moisture, no movement, no real-world variables of any kind. The moment you introduce reality, those ratings begin to fail. Moisture is the first killer. Down insulation, the gold standard of expensive sleeping bags, loses up to 90% of its insulating value when wet. 90%. Your $500 bag becomes a $50 bag the moment humidity accumulates inside. And humidity always accumulates. Your body releases moisture all night long. In a sealed sleeping bag, that moisture has nowhere to go except into the insulation. Compression is the second killer. Insulation works by trapping air. When you lie on a sleeping bag, you compress the insulation beneath you. Compressed insulation traps no air. It provides almost no warmth. This is why sleeping pads exist. But sleeping pads add cost and complexity, and they introduce their own failure points. Cold spots are the third killer. Every sleeping bag has seams. Every seam is a potential weakness where cold can penetrate. Baffles shift during the night, creating thin spots. Zippers conduct cold directly to your body. Draft collars fail to seal properly. Each of these small failures adds up. And here is the uncomfortable truth that every honest outdoor professional knows. Most people who buy expensive sleeping bags do not know how to use them properly. They do not understand layering. They do not understand moisture management. They do not understand the physics of heat retention. They trust the gear to do the work. And when the gear fails, they have no backup plan. The homeless have no such illusions. They cannot afford to trust equipment. They cannot afford failure. And so they have learned to work with physics directly, to create systems that do not depend on laboratory conditions. Systems that work in the real world where moisture happens and compression happens and nothing ever goes exactly as planned. Number 2, the physics of warmth. What the homeless understand that you don't. Before we examine specific techniques, we must understand the physics. Because physics is the foundation of everything that follows. Physics is why $15 can beat $500. Physics is why knowledge matters more than equipment. Heat leaves your body through 4 mechanisms. Master these 4 mechanisms and you master warmth itself. The first mechanism is conduction. Direct contact heat transfer. When you touch something cold, heat flows from your body into that object. This is why lying on frozen ground drains warmth faster than cold air ever could. This is why the bottom of your sleeping system matters more than the top. The second mechanism is convection. Heat transfer through moving air. When cold air flows across your skin, it carries warmth away. When warm air near your body is replaced by cold air, you lose heat continuously. This is why wind is so dangerous. This is why sealed air spaces are so valuable. The third mechanism is radiation. Your body emits infrared energy constantly. This energy radiates outward in all directions, passing through air and thin materials until it encounters something that absorbs or reflects it. This is why reflective materials matter. This is why dead air spaces work. The fourth mechanism is evaporation. When moisture on your skin evaporates, it absorbs enormous amounts of heat. This is why sweating cools you down in summer. And this is why moisture management is critical in winter. Wet skin loses heat at catastrophic rates. Every effective warmth system must address all four mechanisms: block conduction from below, stop convection by eliminating air movement, trap or reflect radiated heat, manage moisture to prevent evaporative cooling. The $500 sleeping bag attempts to do all of this with a single product, and it succeeds partially, but it depends on ideal conditions and proper use. The homeless approach is different. It addresses each mechanism separately using the cheapest materials that will do the job. Cardboard for conduction, plastic for convection, newspaper for radiation, layering for moisture management. Each component costs almost nothing. Together they create a system that addresses the physics more directly than any single product ever could. This is the secret. Warmth is not about buying the right container. It is about understanding heat transfer and blocking it at every point. Do this correctly, and you can stay warm with garbage. Fail to do this, and no amount of expensive gear will save you. Number 3, the cardboard foundation, the most underrated insulator in existence. Let us begin building the $15 system, and we begin where warmth begins, at the bottom. Cardboard is the foundation of homeless survival. It is also one of the most underrated insulating materials in existence. Walk behind any grocery store or appliance shop, and you will find cardboard for free. Large flat sheets of corrugated cardboard that would otherwise end up in recycling bins or landfills. To most people, this is garbage. To someone who understands physics, it is survival equipment. Corrugated cardboard is not solid. Look at it from the edge and you will see a wave pattern between two flat layers. This corrugation creates channels of trapped air throughout the material. Trapped air is insulation. This is the same principle that makes double-pane windows effective. The same principle behind foam insulation and downfilling and every other insulation technology ever developed. A single layer of corrugated cardboard provides measurable insulation. 2 layers provide significantly more. 3 or 4 layers stacked together create a sleeping surface that rivals commercial sleeping pads costing $50 or more. But cardboard does something even more important than insulate. It creates a vapor barrier between your body and the ground. The ground is wet. Even ground that looks dry contains moisture that will wick upward into anything placed upon it. A sleeping bag laid directly on soil will absorb moisture from below. That moisture will migrate into the insulation, destroying its effectiveness. By morning, you will be lying in a damp, cold mess, wondering why your expensive gear failed. Cardboard blocks this moisture transfer. It absorbs some moisture into its fibers, but does not pass it through to the layers above. It sacrifices itself to protect the sleeper. The homeless know to look for specific types of cardboard. Appliance boxes are ideal. Large, thick corrugated sheets that can be laid flat without folding. Waxed cardboard from produce boxes provides extra moisture resistance. Multiple smaller pieces can be overlapped to create a continuous surface. The technique is simple. Lay cardboard directly on the ground, at least 2 layers, 3 or 4 in extreme cold. The cardboard should extend beyond the sleeping area on all sides to prevent cold air from circulating underneath. This single step addresses conduction, the most dangerous heat loss mechanism for a ground sleeper. It costs nothing, it weighs almost nothing, and it makes a bigger difference than almost any other single element of the system. Number 4, the newspaper secret. Why yesterday's news keeps you alive. Now we add the second layer. And this is where the $15 system begins to outperform expensive sleeping bags in ways that surprise even experienced outdoor professionals. Newspaper is remarkable insulation. This seems absurd at first. Newspaper is thin. Newspaper is flimsy. Newspaper tears easily and falls apart when wet. How could newspaper possibly compete with technical insulation that costs hundreds of dollars? The answer is in the physics. Newspaper is made of wood fibers. Those fibers contain countless tiny air pockets. When you crumple newspaper loosely, those air pockets multiply. Crumpled newspaper becomes a three-dimensional matrix of trapped air. And trapped air, as we have established, is insulation. But newspaper has another property that makes it especially valuable for survival. It is available everywhere. Every city has newspaper. Every town has newspaper. It can be collected for free from recycling bins and newspaper boxes and discarded on street corners. In an emergency, you can always find newspaper. The homeless use newspaper in multiple ways. The first use is body insulation. Sheets of newspaper placed inside clothing create additional insulating layers between your skin and your shirt, between your shirt and your jacket. Each layer of newspaper adds warmth out of proportion to its thickness. The second use is sleeping insulation. Crumpled newspaper stuffed loosely into a bag or arranged around the body creates loft. Loft traps air. Trapped air provides warmth. A thick layer of crumpled newspaper around the torso can add 20 degrees or more to the effective temperature of any sleeping system. The third use is moisture management. Newspaper absorbs moisture from the skin. It wicks sweat away from the body, preventing the evaporative cooling that makes wet sleepers cold. As the newspaper becomes damp, it can be replaced with dry sheets. This continuous moisture management keeps the sleeper dry and warm throughout the night. The technique for sleeping insulation works like this. Create a bed of crumpled newspaper over the cardboard foundation. Do not pack it tightly. Loose, crumpled paper traps more air than compressed paper. The layer should be at least 4 inches thick, 6 inches in extreme cold. The sleeper lies within this newspaper nest with additional crumpled paper pulled over the body. This newspaper cocoon addresses both convection and radiation. The trapped air spaces block air movement. The multiple layers of paper reflect radiated body heat back toward the sleeper. Combined with the cardboard foundation, the system now addresses 3 of the 4 heat loss mechanisms. Total cost so far: $0 if you collect cardboard and newspaper from recycling, perhaps $2 if you buy newspaper from a vending box. Number 5, the plastic bag barrier, controlling convection and moisture. Now we add the element that seals the system, the element that transforms a pile of garbage into a genuine survival shelter. Plastic bags. Specifically large plastic bags, trash bags, contractor bags, leaf bags, the bigger the better. See, a box of 10 contractor-grade trash bags costs approximately $5 at any hardware store. These 10 bags provide enough material for multiple nights of survival sleeping. Plastic serves 2 critical functions in the homeless sleeping system. The first function is vapor barrier. When you place your body inside a plastic bag, the moisture you exhale and perspire cannot escape into the environment. This seems counterintuitive. We discussed moisture as a problem. Why would trapping moisture be beneficial? The answer is layers. The plastic bag creates a sealed environment directly around your body. Inside this environment, moisture accumulates, but the air also warms. Your body heats the trapped air. The plastic prevents that heated air from escaping. Yes, the interior becomes humid, but humid, warm air is far better than dry, cold air. The key is keeping the moisture inside the plastic layer and away from your insulation. Your insulation, the newspaper, and additional layers stays outside the plastic. It stays dry. It continues to function. The moisture stays contained where it cannot compromise the system. The second function is wind barrier. Moving air is the enemy of warmth. Even a slight breeze can strip heat from an unprotected sleeper at alarming rates. Plastic blocks air movement completely. A plastic outer layer transforms a loosely arranged pile of newspaper and cardboard into a sealed shelter where no wind can penetrate. The homeless use plastic bags in a specific configuration. First, a large contractor bag is opened at the bottom and worn like a poncho over the torso. This creates the inner vapor barrier that traps body heat. Second, the sleeper lies down on the cardboard and newspaper foundation and pulls newspaper insulation around the body. Third, a second large bag or a sheet of plastic is draped over the entire arrangement, creating an outer wind barrier that seals the system. This 3-layer approach, inner vapor barrier, then insulation, then outer wind barrier, is the same principle used in technical layering systems costing hundreds of dollars. Base layer, insulation layer, shell layer. The homeless version costs $5 for the plastic bags. The physics are identical. Number 6, the reflective layer. emergency blankets, and the radiation solution. Now we add one more element, an element that costs approximately $3 and can increase the effectiveness of the entire system by 30% or more. The emergency blanket. These thin metallic sheets are sold in nearly every dollar store and pharmacy in America. They are marketed as emergency survival gear, and most people who buy them assume they work like blankets. They are wrong. Emergency blankets do not insulate. They have no thickness. They trap no air. If you wrap yourself in an emergency blanket expecting it to keep you warm like a regular blanket, you will be disappointed and possibly dead. Emergency blankets work through reflection. Your body constantly radiates infrared energy. This is radiant heat loss, the fourth mechanism we discussed. That energy passes through air and through thin materials. It escapes into the environment and is lost. Metallic surfaces reflect infrared energy. When you place a reflective blanket near your body, it bounces radiated heat back toward you. Energy that would have escaped is returned. Your body does not have to work as hard to maintain temperature. But here is the critical detail that most people miss. The reflective blanket must have an air gap between it and your body. If the blanket touches your skin, it will conduct heat away faster than it reflects heat back. Conduction beats reflection. You will feel cold. The homeless understand this. They do not wrap themselves directly in emergency blankets. They use the blanket as one layer within a larger system. The optimal placement is between the inner vapor barrier and the outer insulation. The plastic bag goes against the body. The emergency blanket goes over the plastic. The newspaper insulation goes over the blanket. The outer plastic shell goes over everything. In this configuration, the reflective blanket receives radiated heat that passes through the inner plastic layer. It reflects that heat back toward the body. T. Heat insulation outside the blanket prevents the blanket from losing heat to the environment. The system captures radiated heat that would otherwise be lost. This single addition, costing $2 to $3, can make the difference between marginal survival and genuine comfort. It addresses the one heat loss mechanism that cardboard, newspaper, and plastic cannot fully control. Number 7. The layering system. How to assemble the $15 setup. Now let us assemble everything into a complete system, step by step, layer by layer, the same way a homeless person preparing for a cold night would do it. Layer 1. The ground barrier. Lay cardboard directly on the ground. Minimum 2 layers, 3 or 4 layers in extreme cold. The cardboard should be larger than your body in all directions. Overlap multiple pieces if necessary. This layer blocks conduction and creates a moisture barrier between you and the earth. Layer 2. The insulation bed. Create a nest of loosely crumpled newspaper over the cardboard. This layer should be at least 4 inches thick, 6 inches in severe cold. Do not pack it tightly. Loose paper traps more air. Extend the newspaper nest to cover the entire cardboard foundation. Layer 3. The inner vapor barrier. Put on the inner plastic bag. Open the bottom of a large contractor bag and wear it like a poncho. The bag should cover your torso from shoulders to hips. Your arms can be inside or outside depending on conditions. This layer traps body heat and creates a warm, humid environment directly against your body. Layer 4. The reflective layer. Wrap the emergency blanket loosely over the plastic poncho. Do not wrap it tightly against your skin. Leave an air gap. Tuck the edges of the blanket under your body to prevent it from shifting during the night. Layer 5. The body insulation. Lie down in the newspaper nest. Pull additional crumpled newspaper over your body. Pack it around your sides and over your torso. The newspaper should completely surround you like a cocoon. Pay special attention to your head and neck where heat loss is most severe. Layer 6. The outer shell. Drape a second large plastic bag or sheet of plastic over the entire arrangement. Tuck the edges under the cardboard foundation to seal out wind. This outer shell creates a dead air space around the insulation and blocks all convection. That is the complete system. 6 layers addressing all 4 mechanisms of heat loss. Total cost approximately $15 if purchased new. Significantly less if cardboard and newspaper are collected free. This system has kept homeless people alive in temperatures that would challenge the most expensive technical sleeping bags. It works because it addresses physics directly. It works because each layer serves a specific purpose. It works because knowledge matters more than price tags. Number 8. The head and extremities, where most systems fail. Now let us address the weak points, because even the best sleeping system will fail if it ignores the head and extremities. Your head loses heat faster than any other part of your body. The blood vessels in your scalp cannot constrict effectively. Warm blood flows to your brain continuously regardless of external temperature. An uncovered head can account for 30% or more of total body heat loss. The homeless know this intimately. They never sleep with uncovered heads. The cheapest effective head covering is a knit beanie, $1 to $2 at any dollar store. This single purchase may be the most important investment in the entire system. A beanie traps warm air around the head and blocks convective heat loss from the scalp. But a beanie alone is not enough in extreme cold. The full homeless technique involves creating a head cocoon. Pull the newspaper insulation up around the sides of your head. Drape the outer plastic over the top of your head, leaving only a small breathing hole near your face. The head becomes enclosed in the same insulated, sealed environment as the body. Some homeless people go further. They use a second plastic bag as a hood. The bag is placed over the head with a small opening cut for the face. This creates a vapor barrier around the head that traps exhaled breath and body heat. This technique sounds dangerous, putting a plastic bag over your head. But the homeless do it carefully. The opening is kept large enough for easy breathing. The bag is loose enough that it cannot seal against the face. The technique provides enormous warmth without restricting airflow. The feet are the second critical weak point. Feet are far from the heart. Blood circulation to the feet is easily restricted. Cold feet trigger a whole body cold response. If your feet get cold, your entire night is compromised. The homeless use multiple techniques for feet. Plastic bags worn inside shoes create a vapor barrier that traps foot warmth. 2 pairs of socks with a plastic bag between them creates layered insulation. Newspaper stuffed inside shoes adds insulation beneath the feet. For sleeping, the feet should be completely enclosed within the insulation system. Crumpled newspaper packed around the feet. The outer plastic shell sealed at the foot end. Some homeless people create a separate foot bag, a small plastic bag stuffed with newspaper that the feet slip into inside the larger system. Hands can be managed similarly. Plastic bags as vapor barriers inside gloves. Newspaper stuffed into oversized mittens, hands tucked against the body inside the inner vapor barrier. Every extremity addressed, every heat leak sealed, the system becomes complete. Number 9. The common mistakes. Why beginners fail with these techniques? The techniques I have described work. They have been tested by thousands of homeless individuals in the harshest urban winters, but they can fail if applied incorrectly. Let me address the common mistakes that beginners make. The first mistake is insufficient ground insulation. Beginners often underestimate how quickly the ground steals heat. They lay down a single layer of cardboard and expect it to be enough. It is not. The ground is a massive heat sink. It will drain warmth all night long through any insulation that is too thin. Use more cardboard than you think you need. 3 layers minimum. 4 or 5 in severe cold. The second mistake is packing the newspaper too tightly. Beginners see a pile of loose newspaper and want to compress it into a denser, more organized arrangement. This destroys the insulating value. Insulation works by trapping air. Compressed newspaper traps less air. Leave the newspaper loose and fluffy. It looks messy. It works better. The third mistake is wrapping the emergency blanket directly against the skin. This is extremely common because it seems intuitive. Wrap yourself in the shiny blanket and it will reflect heat back to you. But direct contact creates conductive heat loss that overwhelms the reflective benefit. You will feel cold and clammy. Always maintain an air gap between the reflective layer and your body. The fourth mistake is sealing the system too tightly. Some beginners seal every opening so completely that they create a suffocation hazard or trap so much moisture that everything becomes wet. The system needs to breathe slightly. The face opening must remain clear. The goal is to reduce air exchange, not eliminate it entirely. The fifth mistake is ignoring moisture management. Beginners often wear too much clothing inside the system. They sweat. The sweat accumulates inside the vapor barrier. By morning, they are damp and cold. The solution is to wear minimal clothing inside the plastic layer and use the newspaper to manage moisture. If you feel yourself sweating, vent the system briefly or remove a layer. The sixth mistake is poor site selection. Even the best sleeping system will fail in a bad location. Avoid low spots where cold air pools. Avoid areas exposed to wind. Seek locations with natural windbreaks. A good site can be 10 degrees warmer than a bad site 50 feet away. Learn from these mistakes. The homeless learn them through painful experience. You can learn them through information. Part 10. The real-world tests. Documented evidence that this works. You might be wondering whether these techniques actually work. Whether $15 of garbage can really compete with $500 of technical gear. Let me share the evidence. In 2019, a survival instructor in Minnesota conducted a documented comparison test. He spent one night in a $700 sleeping bag system and one night in a homeless-style setup costing approximately $12. Both nights, the temperature dropped to -5 degrees Fahrenheit. The expensive sleeping bag kept him alive, but he woke multiple times from cold spots and moisture accumulation. He rated his comfort at 4 out of 10. The homeless setup kept him warmer overall with fewer cold spots and better moisture management. He rated his comfort at 6 out of 10. The cheaper system outperformed the expensive system. This was not a fluke. Similar tests conducted by outdoor educators and survival researchers have produced consistent results. The homeless techniques work. But the most compelling evidence is not from controlled tests. It is from the streets themselves. Every winter, thousands of homeless individuals survive temperatures that would kill unprepared people within hours. They do this night after night, week after week. They survive because their techniques work. Chicago winters regularly drop below zero. Homeless people survive them. Minneapolis winters are even colder. Homeless people survive them. Denver, Boston, Detroit. Homeless communities in every cold weather city have developed and refined these techniques through necessity. This is not theoretical knowledge. This is knowledge tested by survival itself. Knowledge refined through the harshest possible conditions. Knowledge that works because it addresses physics directly. The outdoor industry wants you to believe that warmth requires expensive products. The homeless prove otherwise every single night. So now we return to the secret I mentioned at the beginning. The secret the outdoor industry does not want you to know. Warmth is not a product. You cannot buy it. You can only create it and trap it. The $500 sleeping bag is a container. Nothing more. It can trap warmth effectively under ideal conditions. But it cannot create warmth. It cannot adapt when conditions change. It cannot help you if you do not understand how heat works. The $15 homeless system is also a container. A cruder container, perhaps. A less elegant container, certainly. But it addresses the same physics. Conduction blocked by cardboard. Convection stopped by plastic. Radiation reflected by emergency blankets. Evaporation managed through layering. The physics are identical. Only the price is different. Tonight you have learned what the homeless learn through necessity. How heat moves. How to stop it from escaping. How to build a sleeping system from nearly nothing that can keep you alive through nights that would defeat far more expensive equipment. You have learned the 4 mechanisms of heat loss and how to address each one. You have learned the specific materials and how to arrange them. You have learned the common mistakes and how to avoid them. You have learned the advanced techniques that transform survival into comfort. This knowledge is now yours. Use it wisely. You may never need to sleep under a bridge, but you never know when the systems you depend on will fail. You never know when knowledge will be the only thing between you and the cold. The homeless survive because they understand warmth. Now you understand it too. If this exploration gave you something valuable, hit that subscribe button. Share this with someone who camps or preps or simply wants to understand survival better. Help spread knowledge that could save a life. And now one question for you. Have you ever been caught in the cold without proper equipment? How did you survive? What did you learn? Share your story in the comments below. Someone else might learn from your experience. Stay warm, stay curious, and I will see you in the next deep dive.